Okay, I'm gonna react to this Dumb Phones in 2025 video. This is channel is Jake Shelton. Dumb Phones in 2025, Gimmick or Genius. And I've been working on a distraction-free operating system I'm calling Pause OS. And so that's a little bit of context there. I have a minimalist tech podcast where I've talked about minimalism and technology for a long time, so I kind of want to see what other people are talking about in terms of dumb phones. And this is a recent one, 2025. Let's check it out.
So I've seen a lot of videos on YouTube lately of people talking about dumb phones that look like this. There are a lot of different ones out there, but they all discuss the same basic premise.
So first thing I want to mention is that in my experience, there's dumb phones like that one. I'm not sure if that one's specific, but I have one called the Nokia 105 that I actually got while I was traveling in Europe. That was truly dumb, like it didn't have any apps on it. No social media, no Facebook, no web browser kind of a thing. I couldn't find any of those devices that are like this, in this form factor, that have those features in the US. Like that Nokia 105 I was talking about doesn't even work in the United States. So most dumb phones that I've seen in the US have Facebook, YouTube, web browsers, etc. But I'm going to talk about this in terms of dumb phones that do not have that web browser, do not have a social media applications and YouTube and that sort of thing. So yeah, let's keep going on that.
There are a lot of different ones out there, but they all discuss the same basic premise: ditching the smartphone with all of its distractions for a phone that can pretty much just call and text. And over the last couple of years, dumb phones have gained a lot of interest as a potential solution.
For me, I guess that I define them as phones that don't have like the open internet. Like there's no typical web browser, there's no typical app store, there's no typical social media. Also, I say that there's no like food delivery applications either. So I guess that's not necessarily dumb phone, actually, to be fair. I think he's correct more with what dumb phones are. I guess I'm interested in like the balance between a dumb phone and a smartphone. Like, I'll talk more about that later.
To our tech-saturated lives. But do they live up to the hype? Let's find out. Hi, and welcome back to another video. If you're new here, my name is Jake, and I like to learn and share what I learn here on YouTube. One of my favorite subjects is technology and how we can leverage it to its full potential. So let's dive into it. Are dumb phones just a gimmick, or are they actually genius? First, let's talk about the rise of the dumb phone. Since the widespread adoption of the smartphone in the early 2010s,
I'm gonna go ahead and kind of give my like initial answer to this. And by the way, like I like the way that this is set up. It's nice, like sort of minimal space, pretty got some books back there, pretty cool. So like this is like more about to me, this is more like a lifestyle choice than just something that's particularly specific to the phone. It's like you want to have more control over the technology that you have so that it's not taking away all of your time. And smartphones are really just the main source of that because they're devices that we carry with us every day. Dumb phones themselves, I've actually tried, like I said, to use dumb phones like that Nokia 105. And what I ended up doing was also having an old school Palm Pilot that I carried around with me. And let's see if I can Palm Tungsten. Let's see what we can find. So this is what I was actually carrying around with me, which is like a 20-year-old Palm Pilot. In addition to the dumb phone, because this had like notes application, calendar, easier to use contacts, and other applications for like organization, to-do lists and things like that. But so it's, the dumb phone ultimately like doesn't solve the entire problem, in my opinion, but it is something that is like, I mean, especially if you have access to something like a Nokia 105 or something like that. I mean, it's worth a shot to try at least. But long term, this is what led me into actually making my own distraction-free operating system, because the dumb phone, as great as it is, the main Achilles heel for me was that some people still text, and it's very difficult to text on those dumb phones. And that was one of the major things. Plus, I didn't want to have to carry two devices, a Palm Pilot plus a dumb phone. And that's the part of like the idea of the original smartphone, was to sort of combine that. Turn the phone into an internet communicator and an iPod. That was what Steve Jobs really like pushed. And unfortunately, I think what happened is it just became too much more than that. They just created every smartphone application possible. Anything the customer asked for, they gave us, and it just became overwhelming for a lot of people. So I'm really happy to see like people are still looking for solutions. I feel like I have a solution for this, but this is what we're trying to figure out as we move forward in 2025 and beyond.
The average user's daily screen time has absolutely skyrocketed. And in the last couple years, people have become increasingly aware of all the issues that come with this. Because for every useful thing that we can do with a smartphone, there are also 5 other things that are much less helpful.
And that is the key. The last smartphone that I had was an iPhone. I tried to use screen time on it. I even set up a code for myself that I like put in a little digital locker, to where I would like unlock that code every 30 days, and that kind of worked for me for a little bit until I realized that, I can just get around screen time in like 2 seconds. So it's not about what smartphones do. They do a lot of amazing, incredible things. It's like all the other things that come along with it is what really drags down the experience, in my opinion, and a lot of folks' opinions.
So it makes sense that people are looking for a way to find balance, and that dumb phones have caught the attention of mainstream media. So at this point, you're probably wondering, do I myself have a dumb phone? Yes and no. I'll get to that in a bit. But first, a little backstory. About 8 years ago, I was studying in Madrid, and I wanted to focus on the experience as much as possible. So I quit social media, and I decided to dramatically reduce my phone use. And honestly, it was pretty easy to do, because whenever I would leave the house, my phone didn't have an internet connection. So I could still take photos, make notes, and pretty much do everything useful with my phone, but without all the distractions of being online.
A lot of interesting stuff there. I mean, first he talks about Madrid. So I think, again, like it's surprising how there are currently more options for actual dumb phones in Europe than there are in the States. Sort of reiterate that. Like if you go into a store to buy a flip phone in the US, like you're still getting social media, you're getting like an Android experience, just on a much smaller screen. So that's a thing. Having a phone without internet, I'm kind of curious of like how he pulled that off. But also in terms of like the Facebook piece, I've gone through the process of deleting Facebook, deleting Instagram. I started Facebook back when it required a EDU account. Like in the very initial rollout, you had to have a college like email in order to sign up. And then there was people who signed. There's people who got in there that like clearly didn't go to college. Like I remember that the artist Pitbull, if you remember who that is, they were somehow on Facebook. They're friending everybody. It was really interesting. And then eventually, opened up to more and more schools, and then it opened up to the public, and then everybody's parents got on Facebook, and then, the kids moved over to like Instagram and then TikTok and some other places. But deleting Facebook for me I did it the slow way, where I deleted it post by post and then friend by friend. And So it took me a few months to do it. I was kind of do it in free time during the evenings. I was really just like motivated to do that. Uh, and then I stayed off for many years. I When I started to travel, someone's told me that I really needed to have a Facebook account because there's certain Facebook groups specifically for travel that are useful. So I did sign back up for that in that respect. I don't use it on my phone or anything like that. And honestly, I feel like I can go without it. There are certain things that like might be useful in terms of like buying, selling certain like niche items. Like there's a car that I'm fascinated with that I own. It's like an old school specific car. So there's groups on there that potentially I can get on, but like I haven't had any direct benefit in creating a Facebook account again after many years. In fact, it's like every time I log in there, which is very rarely, I just see people posting like all sorts of politically charged posts, which are just, I don't know, kind of nonsense. On the Instagram side, I could see having an account again where you don't have it on your phone, but maybe you have it on your computer, and then so if you have friends that way or something, and you just use it for communicating messages wise, but I don't know if that's even necessary either. To me, it's like mostly social media is useful if you're like running a business. Otherwise, potential waste of time.
A lot of things have happened since then, but that experience has really shaped my relationship with technology ever since. I had realized that the issue with smartphones isn't the phone itself, but instead how you use it. So I've tried to always.
Again, I'm gonna like push back a little bit on this concept. To me, your environment is a strong factor in your sort of day-to-day behavior, and you can transcend your environment. Like if you're in a bad environment, for example, doesn't mean you're going to be a bad person, but it's going to be difficult to not be influenced by your environment. It's just something that it affects everybody, even if it's like not necessarily a positive or negative way. Wherever you grew up, or whatever your environment is going to affect you to a certain degree. So I get the idea of like trying to just use technology a little bit differently, and we'll see if he has some solutions here for that. But like this is why I went to create a phone that like doesn't inherently have a web browser or social media. Like even if you factory reset the phone, like it's still not going to show up. It's just not there because I don't know. I just feel like this phone is such an important part of our environment, where it's changed things so drastically that we have to look at changing the technology and having different options for the technology that we bring into our lives if we want to have ultimately a different outcome. It's not like a solution for everything, and there's going to be some contention in this area, but I do kind of feel that the environment, like the choice to bring in technology that's distraction free into our environment, is a choice that we need to be able to exercise.
Leverage technology to its fullest potential rather than just avoiding it entirely. But I've also tried to limit my smartphone use ever since. About a year ago, I started thinking about how I could disconnect more from my smartphone. I wanted something that would let me leave the house without my phone, but still be able to communicate if I needed to. Basically, I wanted a dumb phone. And like I said, I did end up buying one. Kind of. My dumb phone is a smartwatch. Let me explain. This, or a watch like it, can be used to make and receive calls, send messages, listen to music, make reminders, and pretty much do anything useful that you'd do on a smartphone, but without all the distractions that a smartphone offers. You can't scroll through social media.
Okay, let's take a look at here. So I've actually looked at this approach as well. There's the okay, so I looked into this as well, and I think one of the great tragedies is that Apple does not allow you to activate or update an Apple Watch without an iPhone. It won't even let you activate and or update an Apple Watch via through an iPad. So unfortunately, like, the Apple Watch is a companion device. If you're looking to like get rid of your iPhone, then you won't be, like I said, you won't be able to activate this if like you need, if you had an issue with it and you had to like factory reset it, or if you lost it or got it upgraded to a new one, or even if you just wanted to do updates to the software, like you just can't do it without an iPhone. There's the like potential of like doing it on someone else's iPhone, like if you live with someone who had an iPhone or something and you wanted to activate it that way. But that doesn't even quite work, because then it's like it's on their account, not your account. So, and then having an iPhone just to activate an Apple Watch and then getting rid of the Apple Watch, like that doesn't make sense either. So, and there's some caveats to it, because like when I had an Apple Watch, it was a Wi-Fi version, and so clearly like it was a companion device, right? If I had gone and bought, like if I'm going to a cell phone store today and I go, hey, I'd like to buy an Apple Watch that's a carrier version that works on networks, and I'd like to buy a plan for that. Like, again, the issue is like they'll sell you that, but it's going to be a paperweight until you can connect it to an iPhone. And I really wish Apple allowed you to activate an Apple Watch directly from the watch without a iPhone. If so, like I might look into this as a potential solution as well. I think that would be like very useful, but there are times where you need a larger screen also, and I just like, to me the iPhone is just too distracting. So I like this sort of thought process and trial and error in here, and this is like things that I've been doing as well, and we'll see what he has to say about it.
A watch like it can be used to make and receive calls, send messages, listen to music, make reminders, and pretty much do anything useful that you'd do on a smartphone, but without.
Like for example, like notes, right? If you want to take a note, you're really not going to do it on an Apple Watch, right? Like I think that there was like a thing where you could take a voice recorded note, but like you're not going to do that in public, right? You're not going to like be riding, or like just like walking or riding a public transportation or something like that. You're on the Metro Rail or something, and like it's just, there's certain times where you just want to like type something. You need to sort of type something out, and that's why, again, it's like just not quite the solution.
Distractions that a smartphone offers. You can't scroll through social media, you can't watch things on Netflix or YouTube, and generally speaking, you'll have a hard time being distracted by it.
Technically, you can watch YouTube videos on an Apple Watch. Of course, it's a very small screen, but there's an app for that, and I think that there's an App Store app within the Apple Watch also that you can download applications through. I can't remember exactly. It's been a little while. I know that there was like an iPhone app that you could download applications and things to the watch from that aspect. So I'm not 100% sure about that.
And if you get a cellular enabled model, as I chose to do, that means that you can actually use your smartwatch as a standalone phone. Meaning that you can leave your phone at home and still be able to make calls and send messages. So for all intents and purposes, this is actually a dumb phone.
So again, I do like, for people who are like, I'm not getting rid of my iPhone, but I want to have some separation. Like, this is, if you do get a cellular model of an Apple Watch, it is a nice thing to have. Like again, for me, the iPhone's too distracting, but if you're like okay with it, then it is a good solution to have because you just like you said you're gonna wear the watch. If you wear the watch anyways, and then you can just leave the house, leave your phone behind. You can still get your text messages and your phone calls, and you can even you can get other types of notifications as well. It's just, you kind of set it up however you want. So as in the companion scenario with an iPhone, yes.
And I've spent a lot of time trying to use it as a standalone phone over the past year. Which brings us back to the original question. Are dumb phones just a gimmick, or are they actually genius? Here's my take. I think dumb phones are great in theory, but a gimmick in reality. First, the positive. The growing interest in dumb phones shows that people are looking to disconnect from our screen-saturated lives, which is definitely a great trend. And on the surface, dumb phones do seem like a promising solution to that problem. But good ideas don't always pan out in reality, which is why I think dumb phones are mostly just a gimmick.
So again, I think I agree with this because, like, even when I tried to use a dumb phone, I was using a companion device. I went old school and looked for a technology that might make sense, and I found the Palm Pilot sort of thing. But that wasn't really a super long term solution, anyways. And so I'm just gonna bring up this website that I've just thrown up. I'm kind of working on here. I just started to write some articles about this in the blog area, but this is like what I'm talking about, where it's like it is it's smartphone hardware, but the software on it has no distracting applications. So like nowhere on here is a web browser. Nowhere on here is is social media. There's a More Apps app, which is like a small collection of applications that you can download, like third-party applications you can download, such as like Zoom, WebEx, this podcasting application. What else? Like there's OpenReads is like a cool like thing where you can keep track of what books you're reading, or maps application, right, or note-taking application, or music player that's offline music player, not a streaming service player. But there's also like other things like PairDrop, where you can actually like transfer files from your phone to your computer, which is useful, like in using your phone as like a hard drive kind of a thing. Usually this is more like smaller files, but if you need to transfer something quickly. Study music thing, where you can just open up this app and play a study music to throw in the background. Voice recorders, weather, but application to sync your calendar and your contacts. But even like a chat version, like just a text version of GPT, where you can add like your favorite like AI chat service. Like you could use OpenAI, or you can use Grok or one of those things, just to have like some sort of access to like information, right? Like, so you could ask questions through that. Of course, we know that like AI is not always accurate, but I find that to be a distracting free thing as well. So that's what I'm talking about, like creating an operating system for digital well-being where it solves these issues of like reducing addictive scrolling. There's no unlimited scrolling, which I think is a huge issue. Sorry, my voice is a little bit harsh. It minimizes the instant gratification of social media and social comparison. There's no food. There's no like food delivery apps on there, so you're not going to be ordering fast food maybe as much as you might, or spending, which is like spending more money and having more unhealthy options, etc., etc. So this is at pauseos.com and notasmartphone.com. If you go to check it out.
Even my Apple Watch, which checks all the boxes for being a perfect dumb phone, fell short. It worked great for taking a stroll or maybe a quick trip to the grocery store. But beyond that, I found myself needing the full range of tools and flexibility that only a smartphone can truly offer.
Okay, and I think this is like the real this is the challenge. This is like the challenge that I'm taking on. I'm trying to like dedicate my life to solving this because it's like we need to have we're in search of balance, right? There's obviously useful tools in a smartphone sort of application environment or smartphone environment, but there's just too much there. So I want to go back to like when really like smartphones really took off, which was to me was the iPhone, and say, what if we have a phone that doesn't isn't designed to distract us so much, and it's not trying to do everything all the time. Like, how can we create a more focused experience where we can add more applications over time, but we're very, very careful that they're not distracting in any way.
Because smartphones aren't just phones anymore. They're powerful tools that are deeply integrated into the modern world. They create lots of problems, but they also fix countless others, and have the potential to simplify our everyday lives. And that's the problem with dumb phones. They're bound to leave out critical features that are essential for navigating the modern world. Instead of cutting out technology entirely, we just have to figure out how to build a healthier relationship with it.
Yeah, so again, for me, it's like building a new operating system that solves that. So I actually have purchased not a dumbphone.com and not a smartphone.com because of this concept. It's like the dumb phone's not the answer, and the smartphone in its pure form is not the answer either. We want something that's more in the middle-ish, somewhere in the middle, whether it's closer towards the dumb phone. I think likely, maybe it's like a 60-40, like 60% dumb, 40% smart, something like that, maybe. And that's what we need to look into. So,
curious about how to do so? Make sure to subscribe and stay tuned. I've got another video in the works about how to do just that, which I'll be sure to link at the end as soon as I have it up.
So, very cool video. Jake Shelton again. There's this channel there, Jake Shelton, and I can see here like he's even looking at like the iPod in 2025, right? Like, so this is another thing. Like, I've looked into these iPods as well. I even have like an old school. I built an old computer with an old version of iTunes. Like, when I say old, I mean like Windows XP era. And, which is a really interesting experience. You have CDs, and when iTunes first came out, they were saying like, here, you can like rip your CDs onto the hard drive, and then you could burn CDs, make your own mix CDs, etc. And then they came out with the iPod that you could transfer your music to that. And, the iPod represents like an offline music player. And so in like Pause OS, we have an offline music player. You transfer your music to the phone, like to the phone's hard drive, and then it shows up in the music player, and you use it as an offline music player, like similarly to like an old school iPod. Obviously, it's not the same user interface as an iPod, but it's the same sort of concept. And to use an like similarly to the Palm Pilot, like I don't want to have to use 20-year-old technology to achieve this like balance that I'm looking for. Like, so with if you buy an old iPod, like you either have to buy one that's been sort of upgraded in certain ways, or you can buy one and upgrade them yourself. Like there's a tool where you can open them up, slightly different depending on which model it is, and you can upgrade things like the battery, which you're going to likely want to replace anyway, so you can either replace it or upgrade it to a larger capacity battery. The hard drives in there, you can actually replace them with like a solid state drive, so they are much faster or have more storage. You can add Bluetooth modules so that you can use Bluetooth headphones. And there's even a mod where you can, because like the normal connectors for an iPod are like old school Apple iPod and iPhone connectors, like they're the thick, like I don't know what they call them, a 40 pin or something connector. So there is like a modification where you could turn it into a USB-C port, But all of this is like either there's skill and time um, that you have to put into it, or you have to buy it, and then you're looking at a couple $100 or a few $100 once you really get all these upgrades in place. And I do think it's very cool. It's very sort of like retro fun nostalgia thing. But for me, it's like it sort of goes back to the original problem of like having like multiple devices, which I'm not against necessarily, but I just feel like having the offline music player on a phone that doesn't have access to all these other streaming applications like solves the same issue. Like I find myself like certain evenings I'll just sit down and open up my offline music player, play an album, play some music, and Bluetooth it to my home audio system. Like most home audio theater systems, like have Bluetooth. Even if you don't have that, you can just connect it to whatever Bluetooth speakers that you have, or just play it off of the phone if you need to. Again, you don't have to like have multiple devices with you, but yeah, cool. Love the video. Love the channel concept. Really enjoyed it.
Now, I'd love to hear your own thoughts on the topic. Are dumb phones just a gimmick, or are they actually genius? Let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you for the next one.
Thanks again, Jake Shelton. I would like to get your thoughts too on like the project that I'm working on. If you're interested, I could even like probably send you a test device, to use for a little while and get your thoughts and opinions on it. Also, would love to have your thoughts and opinions just on like my reaction to this video. I tried to like clearly credit you and the whole thing, and so hopefully this gets you some some subscribers and stuff too. But I think like this journey of moving into more balance with technology is gonna require like this sort of movement, and I just think a piece of it is people like myself who are like trying to build custom solutions that solve this problem. So anyway, thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.